Hello, my dear children and parents. Greetings from Indus Valley Public School, Rat. So, my dear children, welcome to online class of English where we were doing a lesson from your first flight book. And the name of the lesson was Nelson Mandela. Children, in the first part of this lesson, we had discussed about the presidentship of Nelson Mandela. He was the first black president of South Africa, where we had seen the struggle, how he had achieved the presidentship in that country. Then it was a huge inauguration ceremony for the first non-racial government it was held in the Union Buildings in Pretoria. The politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries attended this ceremony. Nelson Mandela was then sworn in as the President of the Republic of South Africa. For decades, South Africa had been the seat for white supremacy. The blacks were considered as outlaws. The victory over apartheid was a common victory for justice, peace, and freedom. So now Nelson Mandela was overwhelmed with a sense of history. That means when he was thinking about the past, he was really concerned, and now he was happy so that he can have justice, peace, and freedom for South Africa and the people living over there. The society based on racial discrimination was the highest and the most inhuman society in the world. So now in this part we will see who all were in support of Nelson Mandela, whom he thanked, and he was not able to thank properly because these people were no more to receive the thank, no more to see how their sacrifice is fruitful. Okay, so now moving ahead towards the explanation of further part. So now here let's see what is happening. So it is said that the policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. So now he is saying that apartheid means discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, religion, color, and so on. So this kind of discrimination was a wound, means it was a deep mark in the people of his country. That means gha, that cannot be fulfilled. All of us will spend many years, if not generation, recovering from the profound hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sisulu, the Chief Luthilis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Brian Fishers, the Robert Subofis of our time. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depth of oppression to create such height of characters. My country is rich in minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamond. So now here we can say apartheid, it means a policy or a system of segregation on the basis of race. Profound is a new word that means a very deep, you can say, a great intense. And unintended, that means not planned. Okay, so now in this line, so you can say in this paragraph, the author is saying that the policy, the operation policy scared people, and it will take a long time for them to move on. That means it was so much, it has created a deep impression in the people in a negative form that to come out from that situation, it was very difficult and it takes too much of time for them. The author mentions that this hard time, that means discrimination on the basis of color, had its negative impacts, but it also exposed a lot of strong and courageous men who stood up and raised their voice. So he's saying that in this negative situation, there were people like the names are mentioned: Oliver Tambos, Walter Cecil, Chief Luthis, Yusuf Dadus, Bram Fisher, Robert Subukwe. So these all the people who have raised their voice against this discrimination, against apartheid. So thus it requires that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes. मतलब इतना उनको करेज लगा ऐसे हीरोज बनाने के लिए. So South Africa, he says, is rich in minerals and gems, but the greatest strength lies in its people. So now he is saying that he knows that his country is rich in gems as well as in minerals, but the real diamond or the real strength is lie in its people. Okay, next paragraph. It is from those comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. So here comrades, children, comrades means the companion, the colleague whom you are working in an organization or the institution. So now he is saying that he had learned the real meaning of courage from his companions, from his people whom he were working. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. So now he is saying that he even seen the people who have put their life in risk for freedom. Okay. So I have seen men stand up to attack and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. So now he is saying a resilience, new word, it means the ability to handle any kind of tough situation. So he had seen the people fighting against the tough situation given by the white supremacy. So now he is saying that I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So for him, he is saying that courage did not mean the absence of fear. That means absence of dar. That is not courage. What is the real meaning of courage? The real meaning of courage was the ability to overcome the fear. Okay, so ability to overcome the fear was the real meaning of courage that the author had learned from his companions, from his colleagues. The man who overcome this fear is called brave. So now he is saying that the person who conquered the fear is known as brave. No one is born hating another person because the color of the skin or his background or his religion. So now he is saying that people, those who are born, they do not know anything, nor the religion, nor the background, nor the color of the skin. So they are not born with any kind of hating because of these reasons, because he do not know anything. So how can he hate all these things? People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So now here is author is saying that if child is not born with hate because of these reasons, then that means hate is being taught to him, उसको पढ़ाया जाता है. And then if he can learn the hate, then he can easily love, he can learn how to love, because it is natural. And hate kill, you have to practice, you have certain reasons, certain things why we are hating this particular person. But love is a natural tendency, so it is more easy to be taught. Even in the grimmest time in prison, when my comrade and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guard, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. So now grimmest means you can say a very serious time. So now the author is saying that when he and his companion were in the prison, at that time one of the guard has showed the humanity. He had done some good to him. So that goodness is showing a ray of humanity to the author, and he made him going. That means he can understand that humanity still survive. Okay, So man's goodness is a flame that cannot be hidden but never extinguished. So जो अच्छाई होती है ना उसे छुपती तो है पर ज़्यादा देर तक छुपाई नहीं जा सकती. It can be revealed at any point of time. So he believes, that means Nelson Mandela believes that goodness in human being can be suppressed. थोड़े टाइम के लिए अच्छाई को दबाया जा सकता but can never be eliminated, but cannot be extinguished. Okay, next. In life, every man has twin obligation. Obligation to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children. And he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So now author is telling about two kind of obligation. One is obligation towards his family and other obligation is towards the society. Okay. So in a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. So now author is saying that according to his desire, according to his ability, he is capable of fulfilling both the abilities, okay, both the obligations. For example, you can see your father, he is fulfilling whatever he is capable of giving you. Means आपकी responsibility उठाते हैं, जैसे भी उठाएं उनकी जो काबिलियत होती है उस हिसाब से उठाते हैं. And same way when he sits with the people outside your home, then he is showing another obligations towards them according to his inclination. That means अपने ही will के हिसाब से, अपना जो natural tendency होते है उसके हिसाब से and his capability के हिसाब से he is fulfilling both the obligations. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. So now the author is saying that in South Africa, if a person is born in black color, then it's very difficult for him to fulfill both the obligation. How? Let's see. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. That means if a person who is going to fulfill both the obligation, then he might be isolated and punished. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. So now what happened if a person who is in South Africa, if he is serving or if he is fulfilling the obligations towards the society, then he was forced, okay, he was forced to moved out from his family and he has to live isolated from them. Okay, I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, brother, a father, and a husband. So now what happened? He is telling that ki when a person of his color would come up for society, then he would be arrested. मतलब वो society के लिए कोई person black वाला person खड़ा होता है, then he will be arrested and taken away from his family, thus keeping them from fulfilling both the responsibility. तो उनको दोनों ही responsibility से अलग कर दिया जाता था. In the beginning, Mandela did not put his people over his family. तो मतलब initially वो अपनी family को importance देता था, but it was only later, बाद में उसे realized हुआ, in order to be there for his people, he was compromising his duty towards his own family. तो सबसे पहले वो अपनी people को ऊपर रखा और अपनी family को avoid किया, but later उसे realize हुआ कि वो अपने people के लिए अपनी family के towards जो responsibility है वो उससे defy हो रहा है. He is compromising that. Okay. तो as a husband he is compromising as a father, as a brother, or as a son. Next, I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know, free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast meals under the star and ride the broad back of slow-moving bulls as long as I obeyed my father and abide by the custom of my tribe. I was not troubled by the law of man or God. So now here it is told that author is saying that कि he did not have any plan to stand against the apartheid system earlier life. So when he was a small child, so that time he did not have any kind of planning that he will stand against all these things. Now what happened? So he lived his childhood like any normal child in South Africa. He only had to follow the rules set up by his father or the custom of his tribes. So he used to run behind his mother's hut or swim or anything like that. Like a childhood, he is spending his time. He only had to follow the rules. So now as soon as he grew up and began to learn the facts as to how people of color are treated, he decided to stand against it. जैसे उसे पता चला कि कैसे discrimination हो रहा colors के against, so now he decided to stand against this. He had this urge for freedom from inside. अब उसके अंदर एक urge आने लगा कि मुझे इसके against जाना है, freedom लाना है. So earlier just for himself and later of having a basic life, not just for himself but for everyone. तो वो सिर्फ अपने लिए नहीं, उसने सबके लिए सोचना शुरू किया. So now in Johannesburg, they had to struggle for having a peaceful marriage, family and basic amenities, from which here I'm telling, I forgot to read out. So it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. So now he was thinking it is only an illusion, that means that is not to be real. So when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased and go where I choose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I aimed for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So now he is saying, so when as a boy doing studies, that time I want to stay out at night or something like that. But later for having the basic life, not just for himself, मतलब अपने लिए नहीं, बाकी सबके लिए. So what happened in Johannesburg? They had to struggle for having. तो Johannesburg में क्या करते थे? जब वो Johannesburg में था, so they have to struggle for marriage, having a family and the basic amenities which everyone has to access, where law and other thing exist. तो उसको बहुत ज़्यादा उसे सफ़र करना पड़ता था वहाँ पे. Now coming towards the next paragraph. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. Then that is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger of my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So now what happened? Curtail means hota hai imposed on restrictions. So now he is telling that he had joined African National Congress when he realized that it is not only him whose basic right was snatched, but of all those who looked like him. जितने भी उसकी तरह दिखते हैं उन सब की ये basic rights को snatch किया गया है. He had this fire inside to free his people from the injustice. उसके अंदर ये fire आया इस वजह से. So it was the fire that changed the author completely as a man, from being scared to brave, a lawyer, or to one breaking the things. So now what happened? It was the desire for the freedom of my people to live their life with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Freedom is indivisible. The chain on any one of my people were the chain on all of them. The chain on all my people were the chain on me. So now what happened? He is saying that after that, so he is completely changed, a completely changed man from being scared to brave, a lawyer to one breaking the law, मतलब lawyer था तो उसने law break किया, a family man to a man without a home, and a lively man into being a monk. वो monk की तरह अपनी life को उसने व्यतीत करने लगा. It was the knowledge that he and his people have restricted freedom that made him into a selfless man as opposed before. तो अब वो oppose करने लगा. According to him, freedom cannot be divided. So according to author, freedom cannot be divided. So snatching it away from some of the equivalent to taking it away from everyone, that meant taking it away from the author. कहने का मतलब ये, अगर एक पे बंदिश डली है तो वो नेल्सन मंडेला के ऊपर भी बंदिश है. दैट मीन्स वो किसी के ऊपर नहीं पड़ेगी बंदिश, अगर पड़ेगी तो उसके ऊपर, एंड ही इज गोइंग टू फाइट अगेंस्ट दैट थिंग. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. The oppressed and oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. So now, dear children, here prejudice means a strong dislike without any good reason. So in this paragraph, it is told that the need to free the oppressor is as high as that of oppressed. तो यहाँ पे oppressor और oppressed एक ही समान थे, because the oppressor जो मतलब आपको suppress करता है, आपको दबाता है, is bound by the shackles of hatred. मतलब उसके तरफ इतना ज़्यादा उसके दिमाग में डाल दिया जाता है hatred कि वो उसके सलाखों के पीछे चला जाता है, hate पूरा भर जाता है उसके दिमाग में. He has the weight of all the people who he had tormented. मतलब उसने अंदर इतना ज़्यादा वजन हो जाता है जिसको उसे परेशान करना होता है. For he carries the curse of all their families. और वो इतना ज़्यादा भार में लग जाता है कि लोग उसके जो फैमिली मेम्बर्स होते हैं जिसको उसने टॉर्चर किया है, they are going to curse him. ठीक है. For taking away someone else's freedom and making them prisoner. ठीक है. He becomes a prisoner of biasness. तो वो biasness का एक prisoner बन जाता है. Thus he is robbed of his humanity and need to be freed. और वो humanity को अपना चोरी कर लेता है, जो इंसानियत होती है वो उसकी ख़त्म हो जाती है, because he is taking away somebody's happiness. Clear? Okay, my dear children. So now what happened? So hope you have understood the lesson, and the main theme what you can say in this is that this is a story, or you can say autobiography, that pay a tribute to those black heroes and patriots who waged a relentless struggle against the apartheid or the racist rule of South Africa. So we will here we have find the description of inauguration ceremony in the Union Building, attended by various dignitaries, politicians, and we had came across the thought of Nelson Mandela. He had told the real meaning of courage, and he said now he will serve a secure, free and republic, South Africa, and every people will be treated equally. This is what told in this lesson, in this autobiography. Hope you have understood. If any doubt, do message me. Thank you so much for watching the